Hello, 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 and welcome back to Moment of Zen, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm your host, as always, Jonathan Zen. And before I begin, I just want to thank you all so much for your support. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. And today, I'm joined by a very special guest who I've known for like, how many years now? Like 7, 8 years now?
Eight.
8 years.
Friend.
And she's been wanting to come on this podcast for a long time now, and now that she's here, why not?
Yes, why not? After many months of
Uh,
nagging.
so why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chow, and Johnson and I have been friends for 8 years.
8 years.
Eight
Are you sure?
years, yeah. And I'm here for a weekend, and I've been nagging Johnson for a very long time, so let me be a guest. And now my nagging has finally paid off, so here I am.
All right. So we're both adults, kind of.
Ish.
There are a lot of things and responsibilities that come with becoming an adult, and I think it's sort of safe to say that we're both in this sort of weird phase where we're sort of transitioning out of adolescence into our adulthood, and it's difficult. There's not really a guide on how to become an adult or what it means to be an adult. And as mid 20s millennials, I think we're at the prime age of the beginning of our adulthood. And I want to take today and talk about that with you. So I guess the first thing I want to ask is, what does being an adult sort of mean to you? Like for me, I think like the sort of definition of being adult has to do with like responsibility, sort of being responsible for yourself or for others, having sort of financial responsibility, and sort of making decisions that affect not only you but the people around you. Like for example, I have a full-time job, and I make my own financial decisions, and the decisions that I make have a lot of impact on what I do as well as what like my family and friends do. And that's different from being a kid where all the
Mm-hmm.
decisions are sort of made for you.
Right.
And I guess what does being an adult mean to you?
So being an adult means that more broadly means like I know how to take care of myself
Hmm.
financially as well as like personally, socially, psychologically, spiritually. Um, and so many people like think of it immediately as like it's a financial thing, which is like a very important thing, like having financial stability and like what it means to be like financially independent from your partners, from your parents. That is what mainstream definition of like
Hmm.
being an adult means. But for me, being an adult means like being able to take care of myself and being able to get myself out of like situations if I'm uncomfortable. Whereas normally, like when I was younger, I wouldn't have the skills or the confidence to do so. Um, yeah. So like, what does it mean to like take care of myself? Is
Hmm.
how I would define adulthood.
Your definition is sort of encompasses independence. Is that
Right.
sort of what you're going for?
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't I don't I don't necessarily think of being an adult means like when you turn 18 and automatically like you're a legal adult, but when you get it to a point in age where you can like take care of yourself
Uh-huh.
in a holistic way, that's when you are an adult to me.
Taking care of yourself is fine, but you still sort of rely on others, right?
Right. What do you mean by like rely on others? Like,
Most adults, they still rely on other people. Like, you still rely on your parents, your friends. You're not necessarily dependent on them.
right. So I think when I say like being able to take care of myself, that doesn't mean that I don't have that doesn't mean I cut people out of my life.
Hmm.
Like when I have a relationship with my parents, like that's a relationship that I want to maintain. When I have like friendships with you and with like my other friends, that's those are friendships that I would like to maintain, but they're not necessarily some people that I have to depend on for to survive. Like that's a different situation.
When does a person transition from, being a kid to an adult? Like, when do you think that sort of transition happens?
When does it happen?
Yeah.
It happens when you're forced to be in sticky situations and you know how to get yourself out of it. I
No,
don't want to
no.
give like examples because I think like it's a very broad term, but I think like a lot of times, like I think every single one of us have been put into like rough situations, and sometimes like you go with it, or sometimes like I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
with this, it's not my space, like, and be able to like confidently check out for your own personal, mental, and physical safe being.
Okay. No, I agree with you. The sort of legal definition of what it means to be an adult, being like 18.
Mm-hmm.
If you think back to like when we were 18, like we had no idea what we were
What does that
doing.
even mean? What was I
Yeah,
even doing? Where were
exactly.
you?
That's why I like to say like, age is really just a number. It doesn't really mean anything. Like you look at like some people like in their mid 30s, mid 40s, like
Yeah.
some of those people, not to say all of them, are still not what you would consider like an quote unquote adults.
Adults.
Yeah, they're not really that responsible, or like they're not very mature. I think maturity is also something that sort of defines what it means to be an
Mm-hmm.
adult. You can't just forego all of your responsibilities and just not have any of like the responsibility that comes with age, and you can't just be a high school person or like that
No.
sort of personality forever. But
Mm-mm.
unfortunately, I think
Unfortunately, some people,
there's a
some
lot of
people,
people in the world that are still like
none of which I know. I don't know who you're talking
that.
about.
What are some of the biggest challenges that come with being an adult?
People treat you differently. Yeah, people treat you automatically differently once you turn 18, because there's an expectation that you're quote unquote an adult. Um, and a lot of it, the mentality that is around like, pull yourself by the bootstraps, like, oh, you can like do this yourself. So for some reason, like the moment you become 18, like all of a sudden you're supposed to be able to make these like really tough decisions, like especially when it comes to, because 18 is at a time where people go to college, and
Hmm.
so a lot of times like you have to make financial decisions about like paying for college. And when you're at 18, like how many of you know about student loans and the mountain of debt that you could possibly be into just to
Right.
get an education, which is something that is like inherently yours, but that's a whole nother conversation in itself. um so like people just treat you differently, and people expect you to like have things figured out when nobody had told you how to figure them out.
Right.
um
And was that something that you really struggled with when you like turned 18, or when you became an adult?
I turned 18 when I was in high school, and then when I was 18 I went to college, and so like I was expected to like grow into college knowing how to figure out college, but I was like,
Right.
none of my parents have been to college. The only person that's been to college in my family is my older sister, and she also had to like figure stuff out on her own. And so like nobody had told us how to navigate college, how to like go
Yeah.
about moving into your dorm, how to live with other people that's not your family, how to like be around 20,000 people who are all the same age as you, who are all smart and brilliant and good looking. You got like hormones all over the all over the place.
Like for me, I think my biggest challenge, sort of kind of in the same vein as you, was just not knowing anything.
Yeah. And
Uh,
then be expected to know everything.
exactly. I mean, like if we're not we're like for like the internet and like Google, like I wouldn't know how to do anything.
I don't think I knew how to Google back then.
Wait, even when you're 18?
Well, like how to Google things that I need, but I didn't like Google like life skills. I would just like
Oh, I
Google
see.
like, oh, what is the mitochondria, stuff like that
Oh,
for
it's just like
school.
that's like school related stuff.
But
But
yeah,
you didn't like Google like, oh, how to do this, or like how to do your
yeah,
taxes, or
or
how to
like
do
how to
like
like confront a roommate or whatever. Like I
uh-huh.
don't know how do you do that. And
Yeah.
Google doesn't tell you how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably did. I just didn't know. I didn't know. Like I didn't have the skills to like go about asking Google for life skills.
I mean, like some of those things you can't really Google.
Right.
Like that's something like you have to kind of learn, like kind of growing up. But that's like you
That's
don't.
growing up. That's like
Yeah,
part of
yeah. That's I
maturity.
guess that it is part of growing up. But like that's something you don't inherently learn in like a classroom
Right.
environment, and that's something you can't really teach either, because with confronting like a roommate or something, that is really like situational based,
Right.
and like how you handle different people will depend on the person.
Yeah, that's why like when you had originally asked me like what does being an adult means? Being an adult means like handling tough and sticky
Okay.
situation, because like that's when it really challenges your maturity. That's when it really challenges your growth. That's when it really challenges like where you are in your life and how to like check yourself in relation to other people.
Like if I was born the same time like my parents were,
Yeah.
it'll be like I would have no idea how to quote unquote adult because there isn't, there's no like internet to like
Yeah.
really look up any of this information. I think, though I may be wrong, that the older generation, they were sort of forced to grow up quicker than what we are. Like we're given the luxury to sort of maintain kid status for a little bit longer than our parents. We both come from immigrant families,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a big sort of struggle for them sort of growing up and having the responsibilities you kind of mentioned that come with being an adult. And I think that happened for them at a much younger age, probably even before they even turned 18.
Yeah. But they
Um,
didn't have the kind of luxuries that we have, like growing up in a quote unquote first world country. They didn't have the possibilities or the
the
opportunity to
opportunity,
go
yeah.
to college, and that's something. So for us, like maybe it has like elongated that like youthfulness that
Yeah,
we.
yeah.
But yeah, they just didn't have what we had the luxury of when we were growing up.
Yeah, because my mom, I think she was married and she immigrated here when she was like around my age, like 24-ish.
Yeah.
And like I'm just like thinking about that now. Like it's crazy to like to move to another country and be married and like just start a new life with like
Hmm.
a completely different culture at age 24. And like I'm
Yeah.
just like thinking about it now. Like could I have done that?
Do you think you could do that right now?
Even with like all the sort of opportunities that I had growing up, at me at age 24, like would I have been able to do like what my parents
Yeah.
have been able to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I really don't know if I'll
Well,
if I
are you able to see yourself possibly doing that like in your lifetime? Like go to a different country, whether it's like escaping whatever or not, like just being able to like immigrate to another country. Maybe even work for a few years, like be an expat somewhere.
I don't know because I think my parents' case, they did it out of necessity. So
Yeah.
like they didn't have a lot going for them, back in China. And having that sort of necessity really facilitates the motivation. And
Mm-hmm.
so they were highly motivated to do well as opposed to me, which in the back of my mind, like I know I could always fall back to a certain level of comfort if I fail going to another country or something. Well,
Yeah.
for them, failure was not really an option.
Yeah. Well, I think you still have a whole lot of motivation to do well. Like, I mean, I saw you in college, like, I saw you through grad school. Like, you have a lot of like self willpower to do well, and that's regardless of like you doing it for your parents or not. I think that's something that like a lot of immigrant children can relate to, and maybe not so much like people who are born in the U.S. Like, they don't have that kind of motivation to do well and be and quote unquote successful, whatever like the sort of like the corporate capitalism definition of successful, because they need to validate their parents' sacrifices, and they need to like I don't know, they need to like make their parents happy, whatever
Right.
that means.
I agree with you. And kind of makes me think if one day I have kids and
When you have kids.
we'll see. If a day comes that I have
When the
kids,
day comes.
and I have kids, you know, I'm not like a millionaire or anything, but like
Yet.
I have, I'm not, I'm pretty middle class, I would say.
For right now.
If I have kids and like I'm raising them, I'm worried that if I spoil them too much, like they might not know the sort of struggle it took sort of growing up into becoming an adult. It's sort of a double-edged sword because I do want them to have a really good life and, have everything that they need growing up. But there's this sort of trade-off between them knowing the hard work it takes to get to where you want to be, as opposed to sort of having this, I don't want to say like handout, but it's kind of like,
Lots of luxuries.
yeah, just like the luxury of not having to, worry about financials all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the stage where I like think about kids. Of course, like want them one day, but I'm not in a stage where I want to like I think about how to raise them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I also think about like how when I was growing up, like my parents always shielded um things from us, like things from my sisters and I. Even though, like, yes, of course, like we knew we were struggling. Yes, of course, we knew that we were poor. Yes, of course, we can't afford flipping $30 Abercrombie T-shirts.
$30?
Yeah, have you been to Abercrombie store?
I've never bought anything
Like
from
Abercrombie, Hollister, the Aeropostale.
No,
You know, like back in the day.
I wasn't one of those kids.
I mean, I tried to be one of those kids, but I quickly realized I couldn't be one of those kids. But like I think even though like they shielded a lot of their sort of like suffering from us, like we knew as a kid, like you sense that you don't live in a fancy house. You
Yeah.
sense that we don't have like chauffeurs to pick us up. You sense that we can like we live very mediocre,
Like
frugally.
All right.
Yeah, and so like they did a lot, like they did the best that they could, despite being an immigrant in a country that hates immigrants and being poor in a country that hates poor people. So I think like I don't think you have to worry about like that kind of like thin line between like spoiling them and still having them work for the things that they want. As long as the parents set an example, then like the kids learn from physical showcasings of like they don't. You see what you mean? You know what I'm getting at? Like
Kind of.
I don't know. Like I always think of like when kids are spoiled, I always think of like the parents. Like what are you doing as an example to your kids? It's like if you are like if your kids are spoiled, then I'm gonna assume that like you know what your parents are probably less attentive towards you and have these luxuries that they kept for themselves. And anyways, maybe it's just like immigrant mindset.
And do you think part of having that sort of struggle made you sort of grow up faster?
Yes, of course. I realized very early that I wasn't rich or that our family wasn't well off, and so we had to learn how to like take care of ourselves. We had to like learn how to walk home from school even though we didn't always live in the safest neighborhood. We had to like be very like stringent on our studies because that's the only way like we know how to succeed is like we have to go to college, we have to get a fancy job. After college, like that might not be like happenable. Yeah, it did like made us like learn how to cook because like not cook per se, but like learn how to like heat things up and like learn how to like feed ourselves because our parents are working so many hours that we have to sometimes make our own lunch or make our own dinner because we went to public schools and lunch was provided.
Yeah, I was sort of the same way. I mean, that's how like I learned how to cook was sort of out of necessity. Like both my parents worked until late, and I was like hungry, so I was like,
yeah. I'm actually a different.
Gotta make food.
Well, I'm actually like very different. I didn't learn how to cook because like when I was in high school, I actually learned how to cook in college. Mainly for two reasons. Number one, I moved off campus my second year, and I've been living off campus ever since then. And so I didn't have access to dining hall, so I didn't have people cooking for me, so I had to like cook for myself. The second reason was like I was dating. And so I was like, well, I'm like a little tight on money, and so we can't afford to go out all the time. So I'm like, well, I'd rather just like us stay in and cook. And so I had to learn how to cook because I wanted to impress the men I was dating, and it worked.
Well, you never cooked for me. I don't think.
Were we dating in college? No. I didn't think so.
We didn't have to date for you to make.
I mean, back then I was.
All right.
Pretty tight about. Oh my god! I was actually gonna like. Okay, I had a long day on Thursday, but I told myself, I was like, oh, what if I wake up really early on Friday morning, go to a grocery store, and make something quick with my Instapot, and then bring it to you here, and then I couldn't wake up early enough, so. Okay. But know that I was like planning on cooking you something with my Instapot.
I appreciate you waking up for this right now.
I woke up at 10:30 for this.
10:30
on a Sunday.
Moving on. If you had a chance to sort of talk to yourself, your high school self, let's say like age 16, so that would be like junior-ish. Like, what sort of advice would you give yourself?
Many actually. I would give myself the advice of chilling out. Like, girl, don't be so uptight. You can explore all the kind of alcohol and all the kind of drugs. Like, it's okay. Because I was like very uptight back then. I like was very judgmental about people drinking and smoking. Also, but that's because like I grew up in a household like where women don't drink. And so when I see other people drinking, I'm like,
your mom.
Yeah, but I don't.
You said your mom
But
like
she doesn't like drink at home. Like neither of my parents do. Um, yeah, so it's for me like alcohol and drugs were like a very big no-no, and so when I see other people doing big no-no things, I'm like, that's a big no-no for me. So I was like very judgmental. So I would tell myself, girl, chill out. Like it's okay to explore. Like it's young. I mean, you're young. Do whatever you want. Um, I will also tell myself like don't put so much pressure about going to college because I think, I mean, maybe you can like resonate with me, but like when we were in high school, when you the point of going to high school is like it's go to college. Like it's not
get to a good college.
get to a good college,
Yeah.
and so it's not even like a choice to go to college. Like it's just the next step. And so for me, it's like I have to go to a good college. I have to do all of these like AP classes. I have to take all these honors classes. I had to do all these like clubs. I had to be captain of this and that. I have to do like participate in so many organizations to look good on a college application so that I can go to a good college. But that came at a cost of like so many things. That came at a cost of like mental health and feeling really insecure and like constantly compare myself to like other Asian Americans who are just as good and just as active in the community. And so I wish I had told myself like it is okay, girl, to not get into like flipping Stanford or flipping Harvard, like because they're not, even though like they're the beacon of Ivy League schools, like it's okay that like you will turn out fine, like you will turn out even possibly even a better person than had you gone to an Ivy League school.
That's something I would definitely tell myself. Where you go to school, it doesn't really matter. The beginning doesn't really matter. It's just kind of where you end up. It's just really it sounds really like cliche.
It is very cliche, but it's true.
It's cliche for a reason, and it is true. Because I agree with everything you said. I like to add to that. I think another thing I would say is like a lot of the drama, all the stupid adolescent stuff that we thought was so important back then. None of that
God,
really
you didn't
matters.
text me back.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no.
Yeah, like all the drama, like like who's dating who, or like who's like the most popular kid, like who's like the prom king, prom queen, or like all that stuff. None of that really matters. Like when you're an adult.
I actually can't relate to that.
Oh really?
I guess like my group of friends were very. I guess back then you would call it like very boring, that we're like very studious, and so we didn't care about that sort of like boy drama, like popular people drama, because it's like we knew that we weren't cool, and so we didn't try to be cool. Yeah. That's the thing. So like we knew that we were cool in our own ways, but we didn't try to be cool like all the other quote unquote mainstream cool people. So we didn't participate in all of that drama. Didn't go to prom. Don't really care for it.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
I guess on my side, I did go to prom, and there was a lot of drama. And there's
Let's hear that.
Maybe not today.
Off
but
camera?
like there's just a lot of like, the high school drama, which back then it was such a big deal, but like now it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
And like even in college, like a lot of the drama there, even now, it just doesn't really matter.
Who do you hang out with that you have so many dramatic episodes of
No, so I like if you watch The Great Gatsby, I'm pretty much like Nick. Like I'm the outsider looking
Never
in.
watched Great Gatsby.
Or did you read it?
Never read Great Gatsby.
But yeah, it's like I'm not like the person that really actively participates in drama. Like I don't know, like
Yeah, you just tell me all about them, huh?
I think like drama just sort of kind of gravitates towards me.
Really?
I'm not like the source of any drama, but like I just kind of witness everything.
Okay,
And,
you
like,
just happen to be at the right place at the right time.
I'm just an observer. I'm just an observer. I don't actively participate. I don't, or at least I don't try to like gossip about it or anything. Which is, I'm not gonna go into any specifics about any drama, but like, kind of going back to the point, just none of that really matters.
It doesn't at all.
when
Do
you're
you even
an adult.
remember them?
I kind of do.
Okay.
but
I'm about to say because I don't remember anything.
I remember it, but it's like it's just so petty now.
Yeah.
Like just thinking about it, and
I've also heard people like cut off friendships.
Oh yeah.
Over something stupid, like
oh yeah,
you like ruin a relation, like a friendship of 5-6 years over what? Like flipping text, really?
Over like a guy or a girl or something like that.
Yeah, guess what? There's like so many guys and so many people out there for you to date.
even past like high school, that stuff still happens even as like adults.
Again, who do you hang out with? Because I don't have this kind of situation.
Oh, okay. Maybe you need to go out more.
Maybe, maybe. But you know what? I'm a little caught up in grad school at the moment.
Okay. There should be plenty of drama.
We have
in
no
school.
drama.
Okay, no,
We're
that's
very
good. That's
beloved.
good. That's good.
We
That's
are
good.
a very tight, cohesive, beloved community cohort.
That's good.
Yes. Well, our graduate program is also very different from other people. We've noticed, like, even within our program, like, the different cohorts, like, people have told us, like, our cohort is different from previous cohorts and even, like, the next one. So we're just a bunch of unique people that just came together at the right time and, like, really meshed together really well. So, no drama.
I mean, believe it or not, there was drama in my grad program. It's a bunch of nerdy. Think of like the most like nerdy engineers.
Yeah,
as
it's an
possible.
engineering master's program. Like,
And there was
every
drama.
Oh my
and
god.
there was drama.
Oh my God.
What
kind of drama? What kind of drama? Tell me.
I can't tell you.
Come on, tell me.
I can't tell you.
Okay, off the mic then later on.
Yeah, maybe off the record.
Is it like okay?
Because.
I
it's
get it. I see your face.
Okay.
You all can't see his face, but I can see his face.
All right, moving on. So, what are some of the things that you wish you could have learned in high school that maybe they didn't teach? I think they need like adulting classes, like classes that teach you, how to do your taxes. You learn these life skills that can be applied all throughout your lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a high schooler and you graduate and you turn 18, you don't know how to do your taxes.
Yeah.
And you're going to need to do that for the rest of your life. So I think that's something that high schools should embrace and like teach you how to do like these basic life skills on like finances.
Right.
Like, taxes, what it means to take out a loan, like a credit card loan or like student loans, and the implications and the consequences of getting into debt and what are sort of worth going to debt for.
Mm-hmm.
Just like general things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think those are important. I think like knowing how to do your own finances, like balance your own checkbook. I think those are all very important. But I think they're not as important as like social skills that you need to have. So taxes are important, but taxes is something that you can very easily pay somebody else to do, and there's like a whole industry for it. Like there are like professionals who can help you navigate like what it means to be in debt, how to take out a loan, and like do like a breakdown of like what kind of things are worth taking a loan out for, or like what kind of things are worth like an investment, like a financial investment in. But I specifically would have liked to learn social skills, like how to interact with people who are different from you. Because like I don't know about you, but I grew up in a very predominantly like Latin American or like Latino American and Asian American household, but I don't know what it's like to interact with like white people. I don't know what it's like to interact with like black people. I don't know what it's like to interact with very rich people, and like how to make eye contact, how to like shake hands, and how to like be in a like quote unquote professional situation. Like I don't know how to do that. I mean, I guess in a way I still don't know how to do that because that's something that you constantly learn. But I didn't know what it's like to like shake hands with somebody. I didn't know what it's like to constantly be like having like professional language. Like when you're in an interview, how do you like sell yourself in a way that is very marketable and very employable? Like I don't know how to have, or I didn't know how to have that kind of social skills. And I wish somebody had told me like how to make eye contact with somebody, how to stand in a way that's like when you're in like a social circle, how to stand in a way that isn't closed off to people, but also like know you're part of this circle and you're not like wandering around by yourself. So I wish that was something that like in addition to like finances and being able to like balance your own checkbook, like somebody had told me how to like what it's like to interact in the world outside of school.
Yeah, this is not taught anywhere, and once you get out of high school, there's that certain expectation of you to just kind of know all these things without anyone really rubric or syllabus that says you need to know how to do an interview, you need to know how to do this, you need to do all these things. And once you get out of high school, you kind of hit with reality
This
in
flipping
a way.
brick that
Yeah,
slaps you
yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
face.
And you realize that you just don't know anything.
No, you realize how little you know, not like you don't know anything. It's just how little you actually
Well,
know.
I didn't know anything.
You know a lot, but just not in a way that is that is like wanted by society,
Yeah.
basically.
Just kind of want to segue into another sort of topic.
Bring it back.
So, what are some of your least favorite things about being an adult?
Well, I had mentioned this before, and my response is the same. It's like being expected to know everything when in reality I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to figure.
I wouldn't say you know nothing.
Well, I don't know as much as I would like to know, and so I'm like, so I guess that's where like your 20s is like where you like really figure things out. So like your whole is like this whole decade of trying to learn everything. Um, yeah, and like so knowing how very little I know and like no, but also being excited that there are so many things to learn and to know, and so like constantly being open to learning and knowing and be genuinely surprised and yeah have yeah and like teachers and educators of quote unquote these life skills are like can come from everywhere. Doesn't necessarily have to be somebody with fancy letters after their name. Doesn't necessarily be somebody who's like very well published in academic work. It could be somebody that you meet on the bus. Like, I don't know. I take public transportation. I'm a big fan of it.
I mean, unfortunately, in the States, it sucks.
Well, I mean, maybe in like everywhere else, but not so much San Francisco.
Compared to like
Okay, don't
countries.
compare it to like Hong Kong. That's not fair. Their public transportation system is like world class.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think some of the worst, like least favorite things about being an adult is just not knowing how to become an adult or like what it actually means, and just sort of blindly navigating through.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I'll never really learn how to be an adult, and I think that's fine, whatever it means to be an adult.
You just figure it out as you
Yeah,
go.
And I guess on the flip side, like, what are some of your favorite things about being an adult?
Definitely having the independence to figure it out
There
on
you
my
go.
own. Um, yeah, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like being on your own and like making mistakes and hitting, not rock bottom, but hitting like somewhere near the rock
Yeah,
bottom
yeah.
and being forced to like wipe yourself off,
That-
dust off the dirt, and get yourself back up and do it all over again.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I love having that kind of independence of like living on my own and going about as whatever I want to.
I love the independence that comes with being an adult.
Well, I think we should also clarify that like when we say like oh like independent, that means like we live on our own, like
Yeah.
with roommates, but like we have our own space.
Yeah.
But that might not be the same case for
Yeah.
everybody.
Like our families are like what, like 500 miles away from us.
I don't
Ish.
flipping know.
Like
Somewhere in LA.
Yeah, somewhere in LA.
We're in South Bay, by the way. Specifically bougie ass Silicon Valley, because that's where he lives.
The sort of independence that comes with adult, something that I really enjoy because I've always been a really independent person. Like, I like to do things for myself and like by myself. I do know that my parents do mean well when they talk to me about what I need to do, but at a certain point, I want to do things myself, and like if I make a mistake, I want to make that mistake and learn from myself. I learn more from like my own mistakes than from other people's mistakes. Like if
I never learn from people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I think another like thing I enjoy about being an adult is the financial independence. You know, like I don't have to ask my parents for money.
I can't really relate to that at the moment.
Well,
real soon.
Really soon.
Real soon.
in
Give me
in
like 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Hopefully I have my shit together by.
Bank.
I will hopefully have my shit together by then. Let's check back. Let's do another guest podcast in 6 months. And
In 6 months?
Yeah, we'll revisit this.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much all I really had. Is there?
That's
anything?
it.
Yeah. It's been like 45 minutes. It's been 45 minutes.
It went by real quick.
Yeah. Is there anything you like to add before we go?
Who's your audience, by the way? Do you know?
Who's my audience?
Yeah, like like what's the demographics of your audience?
I can't reveal that all.
Oh,
on
right.
air. But it's mostly, as you expect, U.S.-based millennials. Yes.
I have so many questions for the audience. Like
what?
Like, how did you even find Johnson? Why are you still here listening to this podcast? I'm just kidding.
I have the same questions too. I mean, maybe maybe they just tuned in and then like they left after like a minute.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Or like, maybe they listened to my voice and they're like, nah,
that's cool.
This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Maybe you just found a new group of audience because they're like, ooh, she's so cool. She's super chill. Where'd you find her? Let me find me a girl like that too.
She's single. Dude.
I am, but only if you're located in the Bay Area. Because I'm not about to be doing long distance stuff.
All right. Anything else you would like to add?
Well, if you are a self-identified millennial, don't be scared. Don't worry. Do your thing. Keep doing you. Go out on dates. Take your stuff out on dates. Shoot. Do whatever the hell you gotta do to make yourself happy.
Yeah, and to take care of yourself. You know?
Take care of yourselves, like spiritually, physically, mentally, socially, sexually. Do your thing. Do your thing.
Okay. And I guess with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been your moment of Zen. And until next time.
Oh, I thought we were gonna clap to close this off. Oh, did I just ruin it?
And no. And until next time, take care and stay fresh. See ya.
See ya. Oh.
I don't know what you're trying to do. Okay.
I was doing like a close up. Like.
Okay.
There you go. See, we should really practice this, honestly.
Right.
3, 2, 1. Oh, that was it. Good. 3, 2, 1.
All right. See ya.